Well, we're
Is that us on YouTube?
about to be live on YouTube here in a second.
All right.
If all goes according to plan. How do I make I think we're live on YouTube now if you want to check and make sure.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
And then
I think I'm gonna leave it off though, because I had it on for most of the last one so I could check the chat, and it was messing with the quality of the record, I think.
I'll check I'll check on mine. You're good. And then is there a way I can I feel like right now it's switching between who's talking. Is there a way we can have like the Zoom where both of us are kind of sharing the screen a little
So
bit?
if you go up to the right corner, there's a little thing that says view.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you click on that, you should be
it's
good.
there. I don't know if that affects how it comes over.
It says we're upcoming, but it does not say we're live yet.
Okay. I'm seeing both of us on live here.
Oh no, all right, I'm seeing.
Yeah, we're good. I'll try to remember to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it looks like we're live now.
Cool. All right,
Ugh.
here we go. We'll start recording in what was the score? 64-58, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2. All right, everybody. Ben and I are back for another Lost podcast. It's
Oh,
It's rough, man. The road trip. Auburn ended up not even going home after the Tuscaloosa. They stayed in the area. They went straight to Starkville, and it just was not a pretty game today at all. Mississippi State really kind of mucked up the game a little bit, and Auburn had their chances, just like in Tuscaloosa, but couldn't pull out their first quad one win. Auburn's now 0-3 or 0-4, depending on what happens with App State in the quad one category. And just another tough, close loss that won't really hurt the metrics much. It's not going to really hurt our resume much, but you give up a game now in the SEC race, still control our own destiny to win it. But I think more concerning is some of the things we're seeing on the court. Here to talk with me, Ben Young the third. Ben, how you doing?
man, I don't know that I still buy that we control our destiny in the SEC race. This
Well,
team's got to go on the
mathematically,
road
we
to Knoxville. I mean,
mathematically,
mathematically, sure, but this team's got to go on the road to Knoxville. They got to go on the road to Gainesville, where even the 2022 team could not eke out a win. I think that's two losses right there, and that gets us at four losses in the conference. I mean, the margin for error is completely gone now. And we said we had a tough 3 game stretch coming up. If we could go 2-1, we were in really good shape. We went 1-2, and we're not in great shape. And I think part of the reason why we're not in great shape is how we lost.
it just reminds you of how tentative, all these things are, right? Like it's just 2 games ago. We're alone in first place. It feels like things are good. We know we have some good teams right behind us, but you go on a road trip like this, back-to-back road games, and we all, you've done some great research and found some stats about the plight of the top 10 teams on the road nationally.
Yeah.
It's part for the course, but there was something different about today that we all knew we could lose this game. I think Auburn was 2 or 3 point favorites. But the way it went down was just kind of weird. And I think it probably brought some Auburn fans back to the years past where this offense that we've been gushing about and we've been really praising for so long it wasn't there. And credit to Mississippi State for some of the things they did defensively, but just not great. Not a good night on offense at all.
Well, and as much as I want to credit Mississippi State because their defensive analytics are pretty good, it was really just us. We made bad passes inside. We had sloppy turnovers again. It looked like we didn't learn a thing or practice a thing differently from what we did against Alabama. And we prided ourselves on being a team whose 10 was going to be better than your 5. But if you recall at the beginning of the season, Jackson was worried about our lack of star power,
Mm-hmm.
and our starting 5 is absolutely getting bullied. I don't know what the solution to that is. It clearly wasn't changing up the lineup. The prevailing rumor online seems to be there were some violations of team rules that led us to start Trey Donaldson at the point and KD Johnson at the 2 guard position. That did not give us any kind of extra spark. I think mucking with the lineup probably changed the way a lot of things functioned. And we just continued to see bad turnovers from that second line that had been such a strength becoming a real weakness. But even more than that, we just have some black holes on offense right now. Chris Moore has still scored, I think, a grand total of 3 points in conference play. He had some great looks today. He had a couple under the basket that he wound up passing on. He took two wide open 3 pointers, neither of which connected. And it's very weird to see a starting guy be so incredibly ineffective on offense, especially a guy that's a fourth year player in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking on our YouTube live, I've talked a lot about it feels like we have 7 of our 11 are really solid weapons on offense. And so that would leave out Chris Moore, Lior, Dylan, and Cheney. Cheney had a good night tonight. But if you look above that, because I think we all understand we're not going to get a ton of offense from those four on a consistent basis. But KD being 1 for 6 with 2 points, Chad Baker Mazar 1 for 6 with 3 points. Trey had 6, Denver had 8, but like Aiden Holloway, the 5-star point guard of this team, still struggling with 7. Like Janai and Jalen are the only guys in double figures, and it looks a lot similar to the teams, at least on one night, where there weren't a lot of scoring options to be found.
No, I'm going to say on 2 nights because this team looked exactly the same that it did at Tuscaloosa.
Yeah,
Not
but
enough movement, not enough movement on offense with the ball. We had a much better second half because Denver and Trey finally hit some 3 pointers.
well,
But
that's kind of my
we
point.
finished we finished only hitting 25%. We hit 6 3 pointers tonight. How many did we hit in Tuscaloosa? Was it 7 or 8? I think total.
5. It was 5.
Wow. Okay, so we had one more 3 pointer. Hooray. If there's one area that I want to talk about that seems like a bright point, and probably what made this game the most frustrating to me, was we had a chance to win it in part because of our free throw shooting. And there's going to be a lot of games that get neck and neck down to the wire where the team that can hit clutch free throws is going to be the team that wins. Mississippi State went 9 of 18 from the free throw line. Now, sadly, they hit 5 of those in clutch time at the end to really put it away. But Auburn shot 14 of 16 from the line today. Just fantastic free throw numbers. And I think in certain situations that's going to be a saving grace for us. It obviously wasn't tonight. And it was very strange watching Aiden Holloway drive into the lane and draw a foul and go to the free throw line. He missed the first one, and it was just devastating for him. Did you notice that?
Oh, then he made the second one, and then he was
I
okay.
know it's just the weirdness of the body language of the team tonight was something that was
Well,
very strange.
let,
I didn't see. I don't think I've seen this team look lost and beaten before.
let's go ahead and talk about that because I think that we can get into it. We'll talk about stats. We'll talk about what happened, but and admittedly, Ben, you and I are just fans watching from New York and Nashville. So I don't claim to be a body language doctor, but I will say I've watched a lot of basketball over the years, and the first half of the Alabama game, and like we talked about, it was concerning. And it wasn't concerning because we were down. It wasn't concerning because it was concerning the way we kind of let go of the rope, is the way I put it on the podcast. We let a few possessions slide, and you saw what could happen. You really focused on the last 4 minutes of that half, right? In the first half,
Yeah,
and well, this game to me, it was very disjointed. It was very physical. Again, the refs kind of let a lot go on both
a
ends, and
lot go.
I still don't think we're thriving in that. Like maybe we would have in years past. I don't think that necessarily sets us up for success. And then you add in, like you said, like we've had pretty much the same starting 5 all year. I believe we have, right? Maybe
Yeah,
Aiden came in for Trey game 4 or 5 or something. And that's not a big deal. We've talked about on this team. That's not a huge deal. But when you hear violation of team rules, we don't have a ton of like validation on that. But if that's true, it just felt weird. And I can't tell if it's just a road trip where they're frustrated and the shots aren't falling, and they're on the road and it's hard like college basketball is on the road, but it just didn't feel like the same connected group that I've been watching. Jalen looked really weird in the second half. I'm just gonna, as a Jalen supporter, sure he had 10 points, 5 rebounds, only 1 turnover, whatever, 3 assists, led the team, but like he looked tired or hurt or something else. And I'm hoping it's one of the first two because he did
And there
not.
were yeah, and there were a couple of times where passes were going his way that he wasn't ready for them.
Right.
And that happened to other players besides him tonight. That happened to Chad Baker Mazara a couple of times. Chad Baker Mazara threw a couple of errant passes that didn't seem like they made sense. The chemistry is off right now. And I don't know if that's just, being on the road for the first time, facing some real adversity for the first time after getting all this positive press, but I am concerned.
Well, we've said on this podcast, it's easy to have good chemistry when you're blowing people out by double digits and you're on a winning streak. This will be the test, I mean, not necessarily Vanderbilt, but like, how does this team, it's a long season, and how do they manage the ups and the downs and the interpersonal dynamics that go with having an 11-man rotation throughout SEC play? Like, how does all that go together? And I I don't know. Like it's just a little concerning to me, that piece of it. There's still. I'm not saying I don't think they hate each other, but they're definitely. There was a different. Am I crazy? Did you get a similar vibe today?
No, and it wasn't just that the vibes were off, in my opinion. You've talked about this a couple of times on the pod, wondering where the leadership is going to come from.
Hmm.
And it very much felt like, maybe less so at Alabama, but especially tonight, there were a lot of guys looking around on the floor for somebody to take charge and give them the assignments or direct traffic or whatever. I mean, there was so much tonight with guys unnecessarily trying to play help defense and over rotating and leaving the
Well,
backside of plays open.
the only thing I can guess on that, because I'm glad you mentioned that, like that had to have been our scout, and I think we were trying to send a like kind of some faux pressure towards Tolu Smith at times and make him give up the ball, which worked occasionally. It was, but it had to have been game planned. That's the only thing I can guess, right?
I mean, sure, we can go with that if we want to, but so much of it seems to be, how we had an addiction to blocks last year, and we had so many guys getting in so much foul trouble because everybody wanted to go for the stuff. This year, it seems like we have a steal addiction. Everybody has had a couple of plays this year where they've picked somebody's pocket because they didn't see him coming in from the backside. And rather than trust our defensive alignment, we're constantly trying to go for those plays. And it's plays like that cost you on the road when you can't cash in on them.
Especially down the stretch. And I think one of the bigger concerns, I've held off on saying this, but it just feels like we're always two or three possessions too early to panic on both ends. Like I noticed
Yeah.
this in the Alabama game where we're starting to trap and we're starting to kind of like give up 4-on-3s and 3-on-2s unnecessarily when really all you need to do is play solid defense and get a rebound. I mean, if we want to talk about the problem of where Auburn loses this game, it's primarily points in the paint, giving up 34, and then losing by 16 on the glass and giving up 14
Yeah.
offensive rebounds. Like that's why Auburn lost this game, despite all the shooting. So it's I say all that to say it's concerning that with 2.5 minutes left in a 1 or 2 or 3 point game, we're kind of out of our shell defensively. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
and
No, I see it.
the gambles just they're not worth it at that point. And then obviously we can get to the offense and what's happening down the stretch on some of these possessions too. But it's just not good. And I think the coaches and the players would say that too. We just aren't executing. We're not getting great looks down the stretch in these big, pivotal moments.
Yeah, we had a moment again where almost in mirror identity to the Alabama game, Trey Donaldson got a steal, went on the other end, scored a layup, hit a free throw, and Auburn's up one.
Yeah.
And you get this feeling like, all right, if we can just settle in, the
Yep.
game is back under control. We've got plenty of time left to just play our basketball game. And we're still defensively playing like our hair is on fire. Offensively, we're trying to make these highlight passes on these strange cuts in the lane rather than just running our simple flex offense. Or one thing that's been killing me because it worked against Alabama and it worked twice against Mississippi State, and we've seen it work all year. That curl play against the 5-out where we bring Denver Jones up to the top of the key and screen him behind one of our big men for a 3-pointer. It works. That shot is there, and Denver's hitting it more often than he's missing it. And I don't understand why we're not getting into those kinds of sets more frequently.
Great point. And it did feel And again, part of this is probably just the game flow. This was a kind of an old school, ugly, low scoring, and these are the kind of games, right? We wondered if we could win. We kind of won one against A&M at home, but these are the kind of games that can Auburn win this kind of game this year. Like when the offense isn't there, when the shots aren't falling, and they like you said, they're up one, they have a chance to. So it's I don't want us to completely overreact to this. We've got to keep our feet on the
No,
ledge.
I'm overreacting. I'm fully in
We've switched.
overreacting mode.
We flipped for this episode. So like but I will say there's enough to be concerned about. And you know, you can zoom out and you can say all you want. We're 5-2 in the SEC. We're 2-2 on the road. I know, we beat two. I guess bad. I guess Arkansas is just bad, which is still hard for me to believe. But we beat Arkansas and Vanderbilt on the road. We lose to Mississippi State and Alabama and close ones on the road. It's not the be all end all. Panic meter is not shouldn't be going crazy with our metrics and with our record and all that. But I do think this is the big, like what you said, this is kind of the adversity, right? Like, how do we handle this? And my concern, it's hard for me to imagine our offense. This is where we're a fan podcast, right? We're not the most smart basketball people in the world. I don't know enough to know how much of this is just us not executing and us not having maybe as great of a plan of attack, and how much of this is people starting to get some tape on us and what we're doing, all these new things. And I sense a physicality in defending us, and they're starting to read some of what we're doing. And when they take away our fastball, if you will, in some of these sets, like what is the answer? And the beauty of basketball, there's always an answer. There's always an adjustment to make off of that our coaches, I'm sure, will work on. But it
But
just
where you've got to do that is in crisp, clean passing and in anticipation. And that's really what's been missing the last 2 days. We finished today with only 12 assists on 19 made baskets. Again, we're way below our season average. That's not bad for basketball, but it's not the winning basketball that we were playing earlier. And we only had 11 turnovers tonight. You still don't want to be in the double digits, but it was when the turnovers came. And it was every time we seemed like we started to have some momentum and we had a chance to go up 3 points, to go up 4 points, and maybe start to look like we're going to stretch a lead. We had a bad turnover that led to points the other way or a fast break.
the concern would be to me not as much because you're right. Like it's kind of funny. You can watch this game and be like, I've mentioned this before. Auburn just turned it. Man, we turned it over so much. Not really. Not on a normal team. But with the high level we've seen with this team, it is a little worse. And I would argue the same about a lot of the stats you see on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Like the biggest thing to me watching it was not necessarily Tolu Smith, who is a great player, by the way. I thought we had a decent plan. He had 9 points and 8 rebounds in 34 minutes. Like I thought we did a really good job with him. But the concern was we got completely out rebounded by everybody else on the floor
Yep.
besides the 5 man. Like that's the concern.
And one of the other things is it was clear we had a great plan for Tolu Smith, but particularly late down the stretch, Mississippi State saw that and they started to make some adjustments. Tolu Smith, 6'11", 240 pounds, had 3 assists tonight. 3 excellent dishes inside of the lane when he saw our front court collapsing in towards him. And that is what we needed on our side. By the end of the game, they finally stopped sending two at Janai. And the fact that we weren't feeding him more consistently was brutal. But a lot of teams have started to do that where they're sending two guys at Janai. And one of the things that has helped us combat that this year has been those 5-out looks and those 5-out sets. But that's going to involve Janai running around a lot, moving around a lot. And when you have Dylan Cardwell in so much foul trouble early, you kind of want to conserve his win because we talked about it before. Janai is not an elite athlete. He's an elite scorer for sure.
And that showed up. That was some weird. I'm glad you said that. That was some weird sequences. Now he played 34 minutes, by far the most of the year, because Cardwell was like magnetic to foul trouble in this game. And quite frankly, I think we probably wanted to play Broom against Tolu most of the game. Broom like fouled a guard running back down the court at like mid court. That was really weird.
Yeah, a very strange reach in.
And again, he only had 2 fouls, so it's not a big deal. But like that was weird. He called timeout when he fell down on offense, and there was just weird moments. I don't know if he was worn out, and I didn't get the sense.
Okay, hang on, but some of that had to do with the situation that we were in because for some reason KD then decided to use Janai's body as a screener, on the floor there. And Janai looked up and realized that, oh my goodness, once again, our offense is about to run through our little lovely psycho KD Johnson on
But
Tornado of Hate,
to be fair,
and
though,
just decided. I think that was what made him want to decide to call the
that's
timeout.
not a that's not a call. I don't think he needs. I think you get your butt up and play. And I mean, it's easy for me to say sitting on my couch. I acknowledge that.
I again, if I think if Dylan had maybe had some more minutes, he might have had it. But that to me looked like a frustration timeout in part because number one, I think it should have been called from the sideline. We've talked a lot about how we don't think Bruce is judicious with his timeouts. And I think we were so out of sync offensively and had been all day. If I have to watch KD Johnson wave off our point guard one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't
Well,
know who. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I hear you and I agree. And the thing we've bragged about KD on all year is because he hasn't done that.
Yeah.
And but I wonder if KD's starting to feel right or wrong. And this would be Jackson's point. Jackson's really on. If he was on the pod, he'd be really hammering the Aiden Holloway vibes. And I think that's a valid discussion that we can talk about. I do wonder if Katie's doing that a little more because there doesn't seem to be. Trey definitely has his moments, and I still think Trey's been great this year. But like, I don't. I think there's moments like you said, like where's the juice and the alpha coming from here? And we know KD will try to do it whether it works or not. And I will say, Janai was great offensively, and we should have gotten him more involved. And he was clearly, in my opinion, the only real offensive threat during the whole of this game.
I think I can agree with that. I think Jalen had some moments, particularly early on, where he was driving into the lane, being aggressive, being that thing that we needed. He got to the free throw line. He had all four of his free throws tonight, which I love. But the problem that we've seen from Jalen both tonight and on Wednesday night is he's not hitting his three pointers, which is such an aberration for the way he's
He's the
played
leading
all
3-point
year.
shooter on the team. Yeah.
I know, and there's part of me that just wants to chalk that up to the road, but he's now 0 for 8 on his last 8 3-pointers. He hasn't made one in 2 straight games, and I'm hoping this isn't a trend that's going to continue. I'm hoping getting him back to Nev will get him shooting clean again. But I just like there's got to be something that you can do to prepare yourself to go on the road and not miss your open looks. Because you were talking a little bit earlier about is the tape out on us? Are people figuring out how to rotate against us? And every single one of those Jalen 3-pointers was beautiful. It was in rhythm. He got right to his spot and he was unguarded. It just didn't go in.
Yeah, that we're getting that look. I don't get the sense that we're getting as many good quality open in rhythm looks, and part of that's just the level of competition. I know that, but it does feel you're right. Like those are the ones we got to hit, and a lot of guys. And I'll give Denver Jones credit. Like it feels like Denver when he shoots the ball when he's open. I feel like it's going in, and he's
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
that's a simple way to look at basketball, but sometimes that's how you need to look at it. Like, do you think the ball is going in when it leaves his hand? Like Chris Moore, we love him. We don't think the ball is going in on an open three until we, see proven otherwise as fans.
Yeah,
Um,
and even Chad Baker Mazzara, a lot of times when he gets to that far side of the wing where he's got no backboard help there, a lot of times you don't want guys pulling that look, but when he's open, I'm like, there's a pretty good chance that's going to go in.
let's talk about like, and again, I would classify my concern with this team going back. If you can go listen to the preseason podcast if you're really bored and want to go listen to like 2 or 3 hours of basketball content from before the season started. Um, I my concern lied in the 1 through 3 positions and the uncertainty around them, and the unproven nature of everything around them. And I guess we kind of got to talk about every position. I think so. If we talk about our point guards, you were the Trey Donaldson stan last year, wisely so. He has turned into a really good player. He still, I think, is one of our most productive, solid, in rhythm guys. Like he had a great, unbelievable and one today. Like you said, that gave us the lead with 7 or 8 minutes left. It was tremendous. He swiped the ball. He somehow finished on through a hard foul. It was amazing. But Aiden Holloway being the 5-star point guard and getting half the minutes, and I think he should get that. But one of the things I've noticed with Aiden is almost all his shots are threes. He's obviously a 3-point specialist. He's a great shooter. You saw a couple tonight that were great. Look, I mean, it's smooth when it goes in. But he
you
has
know, I'm starting to come over to Jackson's way of thinking on this because Aiden is great in stretches. There are points in the game where he's going to hit some really good shots. Oftentimes, he'll hit a couple of 3-pointers back to back, but the volume at which he is shooting is not justified by the amount of shots he's making.
Sure.
He's now currently making under a third of his shots. Every time he's been on the road, it's been pretty miserable. And against A&M, the last really tough uh, win at home, he hit two early and then never hit one for the rest of the game.
Well, and we've gushed about him, so far this year about, man, he just seems to be he's one of the best freshmen if not the best freshman in assist to turnover ratio. He's run the offense really well. And I think more than anything, maybe tonight, the concern would be, hey, he had one assist and three turnovers in half the game, which is not in line with what he's been doing. And maybe this is the problem. Like, I don't know if Aiden's really finishing much at the rim or in the mid range. And I wonder if we went back and looked at the tape, if you would see everybody. Obviously, you're going to push up on Aiden from the 3-point line, but then after that, kind of just guard your opponent, your man. Like, kind of let him get in. Is he's small? He looks small sometimes at going against some of these guys. Um, I don't know.
If
Do you
you
think?
if you've watched any of the film on our point guard that's coming in next year, Pettiford,
Yeah.
and some of this is that he's still playing in high school, but you can see it on that first step that he's got that elite first step speed. You saw it with Jared Harper. Jared Harper had that elite first step speed. You didn't see it with Wendell Green. You didn't see it with Javon McCormick. And I don't think you're seeing it with Aiden Holloway. We've seen him go to the rack a few times and successfully finish around contact or draw some fouls, which I'm with you. I think we want to see more of that just to continue to expand his game.
Mhm.
But he's not been a great free throw shooter, uh, especially compared to like usually typically when you think about a guy that's a really good shooter, he also hits most of his free throws. He is at just over 80% for the year. He's only taken 36 free throws this whole year, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, and that's what I mean. He's not like, and I just wonder if those passing lanes open up again against better competition, the more he becomes a threat at the rim and in the mid range, because it just feels like he's kind of getting pigeonholed almost as like a shooting guard that's a 3-point specialist. When really,
And I think
yeah, go ahead.
well, and I think maybe that's why we're seeing KD Johnson be more ball dominant. Maybe that's what they're just trying to do with him is
Mm.
treat him more like a two guard when he's in there. And I hate it because Aiden early on was doing a really great job with our assists. We saw him with a crazy assist against Alabama where he drove in and attacked into the lane, drew two guys at him, and passed the ball to Janai, who snuck in the back door there. So we know that that game exists for him. He doesn't seem to be accelerating, to use Jackson's term, as we've gotten deeper into SEC play. The level of competition has increased, and
Yeah.
his offensive ability has decreased.
Well, and he's the one. The interesting thing, the takeaway for me at the point guard spot. Look, I think you people are just going to have to buckle up. We're going to play both these guys half the game, give or take, depending on who's playing well. The thing to track will be the last 4 minutes and the last 5 minutes, like who's playing, because this is two straight with Aiden on the road where it hasn't been amazing, and I think Trey's playing well enough that I was surprised he didn't finish the Alabama game at point guard. And it's easy to second guess it. It's a hard in-game decision to make as a coach, but I'm
I
curious.
don't think it's that hard.
Well, I mean, we'll see, right? That's what I'm saying in future takeaways. Like, does Trey start to maybe finish some of these games, and at what point does Bruce maybe go with experience a little more on that side? What about the two? Because Denver. Well, any thoughts on the point guard first? Go ahead.
No, I think we've finished the point guard conversation really well. I think you might have seen something stick if KD Johnson had a really good game tonight. I think adding Denver to that second unit makes for some really interesting play, but I don't think we saw enough from KD tonight, just in terms of his ability to hit open shots, his ability to manufacture looks outside of either at the 3-point line or right at the rack. And I think Denver just plays too well defensively. I know that KD is kind of our hamburglar and forces a lot of steals. He's the team leader in steals, but I don't think we need that as a team. I think we need solid stay in front of your man defense, and Denver Jones does a great job of that.
Well, and I'll credit Katie too. He's been a lot better at that. I'm going to try to choose to see the whole season picture with KD because you're right. It's been a little dicey the last couple of games. Honestly, I think a lot of Auburn fans have some PTSD with KD that goes back years, and when they see a possession like you're talking about, they kind of panic. Overall, he's been a really solid defender, in my opinion, this year, and he hasn't been taking some of those silly risks. It's started to creep up a little bit. I think because he's so competitive, and when he senses things are not going well, and maybe that's why he's done so well this year, right? Things have been going good for the most part. I think Denver is to me kind of starting to land in that Jalen territory for me. Like if I think about Jalen the last few years, of like, man, really solid player. He really cares. He plays the right way. He's a good teammate. He shares the ball. He defends well. But you kind of want him to shoot more. Are you at the point with Denver Jones where you're like, hey, can we? You mentioned the play running the action over to across the top of the key, but like do we need to make a more focused effort to get Denver going? Because he averaged 20 a game last year. We know he can score, and you see
I
flashes.
think Well, I think part of that is that we have so many good 3-point shooters around him. I don't think he had anybody that could shoot nearly as well as a Jalen Williams or even still an Aiden Holloway. We'll throw him in there. I mean, Trey is still on 40% for the year from three.
Yeah,
He didn't hit one tonight, but Trey Donaldson also still a great 3-point shooter.
yeah.
I think Denver has done a really great job of adapting his game to this system. I think we should call more stuff for him, certainly. But I also think you're going to have a harder time. Denver also doesn't strike me as an elite athlete in the same way that Katie Johnson does. So his ability to actually run around these screens and get to a spot and be there quickly may not be as polished. And I don't have a problem with us continuing to work the 3-point shot through the floor because Jalen going 0 for 8 and not hitting a 3-pointer in 2 straight games really does feel like an aberration. If it happens a third time, I'm just an idiot and Jalen's
Well,
completely fallen off a cliff.
I
But
don't think anybody, even me, expects Jalen to shoot better than Jabari Smith did from three this year. I think that he's a little above his skis on his percentage going into these games, and I expect him to be a 33 to 40% 3-point shooter, and I think he'll settle in there. Um, he needs to keep shooting, like you said. And if we keep getting those looks, I am confident he'll keep knocking them down. Jalen did get the dunk that Jackson's been waiting on for a while, so that was nice.
yes,
Um,
yes.
well, what about the three? Because there were a lot of people taking victory laps for Chad Baker Mazara. And by the way, I've listened to some behind the scenes stuff with him. He seems like a great kid who loves being at Auburn. I think he's playing really hard. So like none of this is personal at all, but we continue to have the black hole of the three. You talked about Chris Moore. We've documented it. We know that situation. Leor only played a few minutes in the first half today, didn't play in the second half. And it got to a point, now not at the very end of the game. I don't know if people really caught this, but late in the game when it was tight, we went Aiden, Denver, and KD together. So with no three. And then KD got taken out for Chad Baker Mazar with like 2 minutes left. And
Yeah, I think some of that is because we were hoping for the ability to run the floor. Mississippi State plays big. They started with 3 forwards tonight, and a lot of times they keep a lot of meat out there on the floor. They're a very old school basketball team in that way. And so I think if you wanted to steal a quick point or a quick possession, the way to do that is to have your fast guards out there, your guys that are looking way down the field. But I think it's important you see that Chad Baker Mazar is brought back in because I do think he's still reliable as a 3-point shooter. He was, I believe, our second leading scorer against Alabama. So his game against Alabama definitely wasn't terrible. It may not have been on the level that some of his early SEC play was, but we're starting to find out that yeah, he was our only other player besides Janai in double figures against Alabama.
10.
Um, he may not be the level that we had hoped he would be. I was on the record earlier this year saying we would have been a much better team with Alan Flanagan still here. I think the numbers continue to show that. Um, but everybody was a black hole tonight. I don't want to try to pin this on just the three. I think
Except
we didn't
Jalen.
get enough. I don't think we got enough out of Jalen.
Janai. I'm sorry, Janai.
Yeah, except for Janai and Janai. Oh man, the games that he continues to have to put forward in and the efforts that he's putting forward in these losses can be a little bit heartbreaking. I mean, he had 25 and 14 against Alabama. He had 14 and 7 tonight. He also blocked, I think, 4 shots tonight. No, he had 3 blocks tonight, but he had 4 against Alabama. 34 minutes tonight because we couldn't keep Dylan out of foul trouble. I mean, that's a lot to ask of one guy. And he hit a 3-pointer. We forgot to talk about Janai hitting a 3-pointer tonight, which was huge. And
Mhm.
he hit it when it mattered. The game was tight. Game was tight, and we needed a 3-point shot, and Janai stepped up and hit a big one.
I think that maybe it's a good point. All that's good. My only point with Chad is like he did grab 6 rebounds in 23 minutes, which led with Janai. So kudos to him for that. That really shows he was getting in there and trying to box some dudes out because it really felt like outside of Janai and Jalen most of the time that there just wasn't a lot of rebounding help. And Mississippi
No,
State was attacking the glass with all four with 3 or 4 guys and sometimes five. And like it my concern would be honestly whether Chad Baker Mazar is on the floor or not, or if we were to start playing with a Denver Aiden time, that is a small 3 spots on the floor. And I just wonder if we'll start to feel really small rather than hopefully this is a Mississippi State problem, not an Auburn problem. We'll see as the season goes on. But I do have some concerns. You know, we felt so big with Janai and Dylan and Jalen. And like we have this really good front court that's experienced. But man, when you don't it felt like their wing players were just massive and built humans who were flying in for rebounds and kind of punishing us a little bit.
yeah, they played a lot of they played a lot of meat. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Hubbard is their smallest guy at 5'10", but he was looking like an incredible athlete. He didn't play like a freshman tonight in his first start. He finished 7 of 16 from the floor. He was 3 of 9 from three, which is huge for them. But it was really, yeah, talking about the three position, I think we got a little more serious tonight. Lior only played one rotation, which I think is smart. They continued. I think they're probably going to continue to try to sneak him out there in the first half just to get some guys some rest. But the fact that we continue to just get nothing offensively from Chris Moore is brutal for this team. We got production from pretty much everybody tonight except for him and obviously Dylan Cardwell, who got in way too much foul trouble. I made Dylan Cardwell our player to watch going into this because I knew Mississippi State was going to throw size at us again and again.
Mm,
We've seen Dylan play some of the best basketball of his career, but I don't think we'll be successful as a team if he's only playing 6 minutes.
I agree. And tonight that was pretty much all foul trouble. Right? Like he had
Yeah,
3 fouls in the first half in limited minutes, and he got his fourth pretty soon in the second. So not good. I was trying to look up.
no, and the thing that's so frustrating about that too is Mississippi State had so many things go wrong for them tonight. They were miserable from three. We actually outshot them from three. They finished at 24%. They were 45% from the floor, but they only got up 56 shots. We got up the same number of shots as they did, despite the fact that they turned the ball over 15 times. They only got 7 points off of their bench. I mean, so many things went wrong. And the thing that's most frustrating in this SEC race is when you're going to beat a good team on the road, you have to be able to take advantage of their mistakes. And we did it in the second half a little bit against Alabama, but I've now watched this for 3 halves
Mhm.
fail to really take advantage of other teams' mistakes.
Yeah,
And
especially and because we
yeah,
made so many of our own that were just completely unnecessary. You know, just like
yeah,
yeah,
real momentum killers. And it's just like that's the difference between a good team and a great team. I still think we're a good team, but I let myself believe the hype a little bit. I thought we were a great team. I thought the analytics really bore that out. I thought the way we were burying folks bore that out. But we've now seen this team face a little bit of adversity where things are not going right. And you just have to take advantage of other teams' mistakes when they give you a chance to go up four and then stretch the lead to six and force them to play from behind in their building. That's going to be so huge. And we did so many things right. We got them late in the shot clock with the game tied, and then we let them come in and hit a 3-pointer with 7 seconds on the shot clock. Because that's going
another
to happen. That's going to happen on another team's court. They're going to hit those hero shots.
credit to whoever that was. Was it Hubbard? And somebody made
I
an
think,
incredible three that really set the tone for the down the stretch part of the game. And that was an
yeah,
amazing the shot clock falling away, great defense, just but like you said, who's gonna match that and make those shots? And it's a great reminder too. I have
well,
really
but
the
my thing is don't be in those situations.
right,
Don't be on somebody else's court and give them a hero moment because they're probably going to get it.
well, the lie, right? And we were saying this in our group chat. The lie is like, man, we're playing so bad and we have a chance to steal it. Go steal it. Well, when you put yourself in that position, And the more I watch college basketball, the more that race to the final TV timeout is just huge. And this team, I'm sure they can win some games being down 3 or 4 points at the last TV timeout, but I would much rather this team be ahead because of the foul shooting, like you said, and
I mean,
because
look, we haven't seen it yet.
I just don't trust, quite honestly. I mean, until I see some different things, I just don't love our late game offense. I just don't. I don't.
And
Dan,
I don't love our late game coaching decisions. It feels like we don't have any confidence. It feels like we're still trying to figure out what's going to stick. Um, we were turning over the ball late on strange passes and like trying to rely on athleticism instead of scheme, and that I think it get definitely gets you beat on the road, but I think it gets you beat a lot more
well,
in a
here's
lot more ways than that.
my only other point would be to wrap up about Chad Baker Mazar because I wanted to, he's played 7 SEC games, and I think a lot of people would argue that perhaps he is the guy that like elevates this team more than anybody. Like maybe he's the one that can like dictate a little bit of where we're going and be an offensive threat. And in 4 of these games, he has scored 2, 5, 5, and 3. Now he had a 19 in there. He had 11 against Alabama, but like that's concerning. If you think he is one of our biggest offensive weapons, and you talk about it's not necessarily his fault, but we know Chris Moore and Leo aren't going to light up the score sheet from that position. So it's kind of not fair, honestly, that so much is on him as a JUCO transfer into this level of playing. But I'm hesitant, and this is the reason I've been hesitant with him all year. Is like I think he's been a really good player, but is he our second best? If he's our second best offensive weapon, I don't love our chances, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I don't either. But some of that is going to come from the fact that we've got to shoot better from three, particularly on the road. We did a little better tonight than we did against Alabama. We did a little better against Alabama than we did against App State. So we're seeing some improvement there. But what's clogging the lane for our good cutters
Mm,
is when if Jalen goes to the key, he is not drawing more attention.
mm.
And when Jalen's going outside, they're looking for those guys who are trying to find the back door. They're looking for Denver on a cut. They're looking for Chad Baker Mazara on a cut. And that is, if we can get Chad Baker Mazara in a one-on-one, he's going to draw a foul or he's going to hit. But what he's having to settle for instead is seeing too many bodies between him and the basket and pulling up and shooting a mid-range jumper that's just not really effective. He was 1 of 6 from the floor tonight. That's not winning basketball for him.
Yeah, and again, we can't expect him to be a world beater every night. I just think it's something I'm tracking for sure because I do have also concerns about really that entire three position defensively as well. So, um, but look,
Agreed. Dude,
Jalen's got to be better. I think point guard play has been key to this run, and I think you can point a lot of that at Aiden right now, and Aiden would probably be the first to tell you that he's not playing at the level that he would expect himself to play at.
did this feel to you like his worst game as an Auburn Tiger?
Here's what I think. I think people are getting
That was a big sigh.
I think people are getting, and understandably so, I feel some of this too. I think people are seeing some of these late game scenarios, and it's kind of overwhelming their vision of him throughout the game. Um, I don't think he's been awful. I think he's missing a lot of open shots, and I think he's
Well, no,
struggling.
no, I didn't say awful. I just said, was this his worst game in an Auburn
I
uniform?
think there have probably been worse ones that I feel like there's been worse ones than this, but
I think there's ones where he's scored less, but I just feel like this was one of those games where we needed him to be that sort of field general, and I don't think he could quite step up.
well,
And I want to put that out there because I have some hope that you know during that win streak he was able to lean on his teammates a lot more. He was able to hide a little bit. He hasn't been able to hide in some of these bigger moments, and he's had to sort of come face to face with the realities of his game.
yeah,
And I've got some hope that eventually this team's going to turn a corner. But I'm starting to sound like I did last year, where I kept saying, I don't think this team's played their best yet. And then we maybe played our best in that Tennessee game at the end of the year when we had to have it
the strength
scrape into the tournament.
the strength of this team has to be the depth. And the more we watch games like this, where there's not the depth of scoring, especially on offense, it's going to be a struggle. Because I think Jackson's right. Sometimes both things can be right. Do you have to have star power and one elite player to make a run? Of course not. You can make a run with 10 guys who can all play and share the ball. We've seen how pretty that is. But if you're not going to get that depth of scoring, do you want a guy like Jabari Smith or an elite talent that you can give the ball to and go? Absolutely. And what I don't want to see happen is us get in a position like we were late last year where it was Janai or bust pretty much. And then we're just hoping to get
Yep.
anything. That has not been the story this year. But maybe the reason today's a hard game is because it reminds us of that feeling of like, who's going to be able to hit shots and score. And we haven't said that really all year about this team.
Yeah, just one guy to hit a shot. So, do you want to take a quick look around the league before we wrap up today?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, there's some interesting things happening right now. South Carolina won at home today, which is big for them. They are now tied with us
Five
for
and two.
third place.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, South Carolina's had the benefit of a fairly easy schedule, but they picked up a big win over Kentucky at home, which don't look now, but the Wildcats are currently down on the road in Bud Walton playing at Arkansas. Our whipping boy is the worst team in the conference. And Tennessee and Vanderbilt just hit the half. Vanderbilt is up 5 at home.
Oh, that's
Tennessee's only scored 30 points.
okay. I
So
mean, we've talked about it. The road games are tough, and I personally think I don't know if there's like I think Tennessee's really good. I think Kentucky's really good, but like
Kentucky's a little bit like Alabama. Their offense is incredible, but if you can catch them on a night where they're not hitting, they're beatable. And I
right.
think that's what's going to be the most frustrating thing about that Alabama game for us is we had them in a stretch in that second half where they looked the most beatable that they looked in that game,
How
and we
about
couldn't take advantage
Kentucky?
of it.
Kentucky with only 15 points with 3:53 left in the first half.
They are struggling, and yeah, I think you can officially count Arkansas out if they cannot finish this game at home. You know, it's the Super Bowl of their season. I think you'll see a lot of their guys sort of hang it up and just go get theirs for the rest of the year if they drop this one.
They need a big win for sure, and at home against Kentucky, that's a big one. Alabama plays LSU later at home, so we'll see. Either LSU will get knocked below 500, or maybe LSU can shock the world a little bit, and then A&M and Ole Miss battle at 3-3. They'll play tonight. Keep in mind, Auburn is playing at Ole Miss next Saturday. Play Vanderbilt at home this week, and then at Ole Miss is what's coming up. So Auburn's still crazy. South Carolina's there. But Auburn,
Again, South Carolina benefits of a relatively soft schedule. Overall, their SEC games so far have been against Arkansas, who we know is not great. Kentucky, that's a good marquee win. They've now beaten Missouri twice. They beat Mississippi State at home, not by much, and then they went into Coleman Coliseum, and apparently the lights stayed on for most of that game, where they got absolutely creamed, 74-47. So I think South Carolina is benefiting from kind of a soft schedule. But hey, so did we, if you really look at it.
yeah, yeah. Did we get them at home or on the road?
I'm pretty sure we are going to Columbia for that game, but let me pull the schedule up and take a little look down here.
It's home. Valentine's Day.
Ooh, Valentine's Day, and we get him in Nev. That's probably going to be big for a bye. If South Carolina keeps going the way that they're going, right now it's looking like Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, and South Carolina. Mississippi State still they've got a lot of ground to make up. That's going to start in Oxford on Tuesday. They play the first half of the Egg Bowl of basketball.
Florida and Georgia. You've been on Florida. They've really gotten a good bit better. That's going to be a tough road game, and then we play Georgia
Yeah, Florida
twice.
is very good at home.
Yeah. So I mean, those will be. There's not going to be many easy outs. Vanderbilt. We get them again this week. Hopefully, we can bounce back at home, get a win. Missouri's struggled, so we already did. We play
I
Missouri.
mean, look, yeah, we play Missouri in March,
Uh,
but I'm concerned just because we have to see this team start to put it back together. I thought tonight might have been a night for that, especially offensively. But even defensively, the way we got out rebounded, it didn't feel like this team has started to put it back together. And we're going to have to do it quick because we're going to play at home against Vanderbilt. Then we go on the road at Ole Miss, and then Alabama comes home. You drop the second game at home to Alabama, and you kiss the conference race goodbye. But also kiss a chance at being one of those top 4 seeds and getting the double bye in the SEC tournament
yeah,
goodbye.
that's big too. I think that's a really good goal for a team that was picked sixth. To be in that race and be in the hunt. Mathematically, we still have it all in front of us, but it's going to have to be better for sure than what it looked
Now,
like.
now we need some help from around the league, but we also need to continue to see ourselves put it together.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
oh
really more
man,
about playing good.
Baylor and Baylor and
You
Baylor
know
and
what I mean?
TC are about to go to double overtime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that and that and see that's why I feel like the wheels have fallen off. We played some good basketball in that second half against Alabama, where it's like, all right, maybe we're gonna put it back together. We played two abysmal halves of basketball against Mississippi State here. So hopefully that's just a road hangover and we shake that off. But I don't know, Matt. It's going to be an interesting week next week.
Pocket Watch popped in. He was live with us. Just wanted to give him a shout out. He's
Yeah,
always
thanks for
hanging
coming in,
out.
Pocket Watch.
Pocket Watch
I don't
is
think a lot of folks wanted to talk about this game.
the goat, the goat of our YouTube subscribers, arguably. Yeah, thanks. The losses are never as fun. They're not as fun for us to do. They're not as fun to analyze, but you do. I mean, it's a 30 plus game season. I said after the Alabama game, obviously we all would have taken 5-1 to start SEC play. We probably would have taken 5-2. So we're in a good spot. We're still in a good position. But the key, I think it's just been a little jarring the last, again, I thought you said it great. 3 of the last 4 halves on the road, just not quite to the standard or the ceiling that we think this team has. So
That we've seen this team play really good basketball.
and they're going to get another opportunity, next Saturday. Not looking ahead. Obviously, Vanderbilt's beating Tennessee right now, so we better, not feel too bad for ourselves going back home to Neville. But next Saturday at Ole Miss is another opportunity on the road. The road wins are just gold, right? And the frustrating thing is that we almost had. We wanted 1 out of 2. You and I talked about it. We wanted at least 1. We were
Just one of
so
them.
close. You come away with 0. That's a gut punch to kind of take. But long season, long way to go. Hopefully they can learn from it and grow. Any last thoughts, Ben?
War Eagle anyway, Matt. War Eagle anyway.
We're anyway. Look forward to. Make sure to check us out Wednesday night after the game at Vanderbilt. It's another late night, of course, 9 p.m. Eastern for our lovely New York friends who are. Feels like more than we've ever had before. Honestly, it's pretty bad.
Some of that's being not the primetime team this year that we had the benefit of being ranked last year. So for much of the SEC season, and I think this year we weren't expected to be as good, so we got
Jackson would go
stuck
on
with
a
a late
rant
slate.
about SEC collusion against us. Nobody. He's
Hey,
not.
it's real, man. It's real.
Anyway, War Eagle Ben.
War Eagle, Matt. Oh. All right. Good, as good of a Laws podcast as we could hope for, right?
I think it was a good cathartic, talk about. I think we got to all the issues I wanted to get to. So it was
Yeah.
good. Thanks for doing it, man. Appreciate you.
All right, dude. Am I gonna see you? Are you in Wednesday?
Um, I can. I have a very early flight
Ooh.
Thursday morning,
All
but
right. Well, we got to shame Jackson back into hosting his
I
podcast.
think I can. If we, I think long story short, I think I can, and I assume we would keep it short. So I'm willing to try. But next Saturday, I'm definitely out. So, well, I already told Jackson that, so we'll make a
Well,
plan.
I should be good for either of those, either way. But
Cool.
why is music opening right now? I took my headphones out and I've completely lost audio speaker.